Welcome to another exciting edition of Near Mint Comic Radio, your local comic shop shrunk down, gamma-rated, and sworn to protect the world that fears and hates it. And aired live every week only on the Non-Productive Network, the only place that would have us. I'm your host, Frank, joined by Pete and James and our special guest commentator, which we'll introduce a little later in the show. Hey, guess what, folks?
What, folks?
It's the spoopy season. Spoopy is the way the internet says spooky now.
I hate that word.
Good. It's a thing, though. I think it's
definitely.
a thing. And I also think it's a somewhat accurate thing. Scary, but not like non-threatening scary is what I would call spoopy. All right.
It's a combination of spooky and Snoopy.
Sure. What? So we're going to do some
it's like
Halloween.
The Schultz version of scary.
We're doing some Halloween-themed books this week, as well as covering the usual gamut. We've got some DC, we've got some Marvel, we've got the latest in X-Men, and I think we're going to start off with something I thought was a lie when I saw it on the shelf. I thought, is this some sort of fan art? This isn't a real thing, because I missed it when they first done it last year. That's right. Dark Horse, who still, for some reason, is doing Star Wars books.
Yeah, I'm still not sure how the licensing works with that.
Good for them for sneaking it. Disney is definitely on the cover, but also Dark Horse is doing a limited series. I'm going to guess it's 5 because my research indicates that last year there were 5 books in the series, and we're just running out of spoopy days in October. Star Wars Adventures Return to Vader's Castle, which is a follow-up to last year's Vader's Castle. Or Tales from Vader's Castle. Tales from Vader's Castle. So basically, imagine if you took Tales from the Crypt, like the old EC comics, with a horror host narrator and a bunch of disjointed tales about something scary happening, and set it in Mustafar, Vader's castle in his lava planet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's literally what this is. And I'm like, this isn't real. Oh, yes, it is 100% real. I've read the first 4 issues.
It's totally weird that Vader put his castle on Mustafar.
Yeah.
That's like Batman making the Batcave in Crime Alley.
Yeah, no, I could definitely... Oh, come on. Vader is definitely emo enough to do that.
Also, I don't know. Making it in your dead parents' house, I feel like there's still some stuff there. There's some stuff to unpack there.
Well, it's his house at that point. But
all right, we're getting it off. So our guest commentator this week, none other than Non-Pro's resident Star Wars-ophile. That's probably not what you want to be called. Anyways, Matt, how you doing? Can you tell us a little background of what this reminds you of?
So the idea behind Vader's Castle was actually something that was a thing in the old Star Wars expanded universe, and could go on forever about then and now. But basically, there was a children's novel series called Junior Jedi Knights. And it took place after Return of the Jedi, and it's about like the next generation of Jedi Knights training under Luke Skywalker's academy on Yavin 4. And then the main character is Han and Leia's youngest son. Yeah, they had a bunch of kids back then.
Benji. No, probably not Benji.
Actually,
Benji Solo?
Anakin.
Oh.
Anakin, yeah.
Yeah, there's only so many names.
Yep, of course. And so the books are all about his wacky adventures, and one of them, he and his companion travel to Vader's castle. And so when you mentioned Vader's castle, that like perked me and was like, oh my god, I haven't heard about something like that in a long, long time. So that's really interesting that they're kind of bringing that back. It's
full canon now. I mean, Vader's Castle has made a film appearance. It's in Rogue One.
That's right.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's there very briefly, but there is it's a wonderful scene because it makes you feel like, well, this is probably the only scene Vader's going to be in this movie. And spoiler alert, he's there again later. But yeah, this book is pretty interesting. Let me set up the tale. Effectively, there are only 4 issues out as of the time of this recording. There'll probably be a 5th one by the time you hear this, maybe not. Right before Halloween, I think on October 30th, the 5th book will come out. Yeah, the gimmick is you're in Vader's castle, and you're hearing Vader's assistant, whose name is Vanee. He's the Sith lackey. He's just this guy who helps Vader do things.
Looks like he's cosplaying Palpatine.
Yes, yeah, he does. He does very much look like he's cosplaying Palpatine, and he is torturing a rebel who went into Vader's castle to steal something that Vader had. Apparently, it is a Jedi an ancient religious artifact that was very shiny. That is in the rebel's mental box. He's like, yeah, I'm being tortured right now. But in my defense, it was an extremely shiny artifact. So this thing is definitely like goofy. It is aimed at the kids market, and I think Star Wars Adventures are all pretty much aimed in that area. But it's definitely got the EC flair. In the first story, it's called The Horned Devil. Not much of a spoiler. You see Darth Maul, but he's the Spider Centaur Maul, which I believe is something that happens in some of the animated things later on. So it's awesome. It's a really cool plot line. These are all written by Cavan Scott, and this feels like a really good D&D adventure. I would definitely play this game about a junk planet and Darth Maul and spider centaurs and whatever. There's a couple other stories as well. Each one has its own story. There's one that is about Tarkin, who makes basically a Frankenstein monster who comes back for revenge. There's one that has the monks with their brains in a jar in Jabba's palace.
The
Bomar monks, yeah.
Bomar monks.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that is definitely a heist movie / D&D game that I would love to see. It's got the huts in there and a family squabbling and giant monsters fighting in like a fighting pit, and of course these really weird spider robots with brains in them that appear
monks.
Yeah, they're monks. They're barely in the movies and they're weirdly in the expanded universe stuff, but they get a full story. And I'm blanking on the last story, but
it's about Skippy the Jedi robot.
There are actually follow-up stories in each book that are even more like ridiculous and short than the main stories, and they take place all throughout the Star Wars canon. It's a lot of fun. If you're into this kind of stuff, if you're into EC books and Star Wars, this is a have to. You must buy this. So I got to give the entire run a near mint. I cannot wait for the 5th story in this. I'll see if I can find the synopsis of the 4th one I'm missing. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun. It's fun adventures. And I really do dig this line coming from Star Wars. I think this is where the sweet spot for Star Wars stories.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, wait, how did I forget? It's Assad Ventress. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong.
Yeah.
No, I think you got it right.
She's an assassin / bounty hunter at this stage in her career. And there's something going on that's killing a bunch of people in this backwater planet, and she's being hired by one of the crime bosses to figure out what it is because it's cutting into his profits. And spoiler alert, it's a creature from Star Wars lore that you never wanted to see like this. It really is silly, but good. I highly recommend all the books. Get all 4. I'm even going to recommend the 5th one, that Sight Unseen. And there's a story arc that follows through, and it's this rebel who is being tortured by Vader's lackey, and escapes, and then gets captured again, and all that. So I'm assuming we're going to get the end of the story in the next book. Pete, you had a spooky kind of story you want to review with us?
Yeah, I've got one. I'm going to piggyback off of you, referring to this one as kind of like a D&D campaign that you'd want to play. Because I read Rick and Morty versus Dungeons & Dragons, Chapter 2, Painscape.
Oh, wow. I love this.
We've got the first 2 issues of this out already.
I love the Rick and Morty D&D stuff.
Yeah, the first one was excellent. We if you go back and check, we covered that when it was coming out. Mm-hmm. Very enjoyable. Chapter 2, I'm kind of on the fence with.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
The basic premise on this is it's kind of a reaction to how mainstream popular D&D has gotten and how that's taking away from the uniqueness of the experience.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it's an interesting take on it. I mean, it starts with the family just sitting there like zombies watching Dungeons and Dragons television programming.
Oh, like a live stream D&D thing? Wow.
And a D&D home shopping network type thing. And Jerry's just ordering everything off of there and having to borrow credit cards.
This is what a weird time to be alive.
Yeah.
We've reached the point where D&D is once again hated, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
For being too popular.
Oh, what are you talking
man.
about? D&D? I play something more niche.
Through a roundabout series of things, the family gets sucked into Rick's old D&D adventure concepts. You know, you've got NPCs named, like a blacksmith named B. Smith, parentheses, placeholder. They run afoul of a series of characters that Rick has generated in the past, but discarded because he didn't like them. There's Bard Rick, there's Sorcerer Rick. And while that's happening, Rick himself gets sucked away via portal and trapped in the Tomb of Horrors.
Oh, good. That he deserves that 100%. Yeah. All right.
Noticing the giant green face and recognizing it there, the green devil face.
Is it too early to review this, do you think? Or are you pretty confident in what you think about it?
I can give it a ranking so far. Yeah, it's saved by moments that are really good. Like, there's a whole page of Rick befriending Acererak, the demi-lich of the Tomb of Horrors, and the two of them realizing that they're basically cut from the same cloth. There's some high moments. I'm not sure that it really hasn't nailed the tone of the first one so far.
That's disappointing.
So for now, I can only give it a good.
All right.
It's a high good, but a good.
Are you going to stick with it?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with it.
All right.
I'll let you know at the end whether or not it pays off. But yeah, it's also missing a lot of the cute little extras that we got, like the character sheets in the back of the first series. But we'll see. It's not bad.
All right, James, you have a somewhat spooky book you want to read?
I think you should consider it spooky.
I can't make that decision for you, James. This is the reason why I hesitated.
I'd say it's horror themed.
Certainly.
At the very least.
So back in April, Boom Studios released a reboot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Basically a retooling of the original concept, updating it for a bit of a modern audience and kind of replaying with some of the characters, which has been really good. Alongside of it, though, they released the Angel series, which is something that I've been catching up with. For those of you who don't know, Angel is the vampire counterpart to Buffy in the Buffy universe. But I think what's been so...
Edward, if Edward was cool.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm really enjoying these set of books. Right as we're coming up to their first crossover, I like what they've done with reinventing Angel, while kind of taking a stepping point from Angel's original series, but starting it before his interaction with Buffy.
Oh,
so
all right.
Okay.
we're starting to see Angel form his relationships with Fred and Gunn and a couple of the other characters that we know as television Angel mainstays, but without having to first go through the interactions with Buffy. And they're putting a really interesting spin on those relationships, as well as his relationship to the city of Los Angeles, and to his framing kind of as a person outside of time.
I'm curious. How does this relate to the Buffy TV series? Does it pick up afterwards? Does it ignore it completely?
It ignores it completely. So this is as if they essentially got the original pitch for Buffy and Angel, and were like, okay, and we're going to start from here.
Okay.
So they've taken the opportunity to update some of the characters, to give their backstories a little bit more updating. I'll use the Buffy comic, for example. Willow is gay right out of the gate. She's already in a relationship with a woman. They're reinterpret Xander's character a little bit, and they're doing kind of the same thing in the Angel comic.
Okay.
The first arc focuses on a really amazing villain, which is a demon that has essentially uses social media to prey on the self-esteem of young teenagers. And Angel gets caught up in trying to essentially help an old friend's daughter who he had saved this man many, many years ago. Angel's kind of perspective and look at social media through the times and the way social interaction has changed plays into a huge part in the first story arc, which isn't something I was thinking of where they were going to go with a Buffy comic. Particularly, when you think of these characters being tied together and this series kind of having a lot of fun with the crossover elements and stuff like that, to kind of commit to making it, its own thing first instead of doing it the way the TV series did, I think really benefits it. And it's made it very enjoyable.
So what do you rank the book?
I think right now, at least the first arc, which I think is it's the first 4 or 5 issues, I'm going to say it's a near mint. There's still some issues with it. There's still some issues and some things I wish they would change. Angel is still a little, maybe a little too brooding for my adult sensibilities. But yeah, I think the topics they're tackling are really interesting, and the fact that the character in the beginning here is so separated from Buffy and really being fleshed out on his own in his own series as his origin, as compared to tying him up with the Hellmouth and the Sunnydale crew, I think adds a lot to his story, and that's fun.
Very cool.
I don't know if I'm comfortable with a timeline where Once More with Feeling didn't happen.
I mean, we haven't
It's
gotten...
early.
What's issue 7 or 8 on the Buffy series, and 5 or 6 with the Angel series? So you got time. You got time.
Well, speaking of early in the run, I want to bring up another spooky comic before we wrap up some of our Halloween reviews. I stumbled upon a book recently that I am really enjoying. It is a Dark Horse published book called Steeple. And Steeple is John Allison and Sarah Stern and Jim Campbell. So basically the story is about a reverend who lives in this small European town. I think it's in Great Britain. It's the best I could guess here.
If there's a lot of C's and W's and Y's that look like they're just randomly thrown together, it's probably Wales.
Okay. I think they're also the reverend who is in charge of the small little town. I believe they're Anglican. And this is where I'm guessing at some of the little things. He fights monsters at night. And it with his fists for the most part. It's like he goes out there, he beats up the monsters that come out from the sea.
Punching demons for Christ, yes.
Yeah. And he's looking for help, and the church sends him a curate by the name of Billy Baker, who is this really positive young woman who wants to help the people of the village and do some social outreach and etc. And she stumbles upon the fact that this town, much like James, your Buffyverse, is dealing with a bunch of monsters that are coming to invade. But unlike the standard Buffy Angel formula, these monsters don't seem super threatening. They just seem to be hanging around, and the Reverend beats them up because they look relatively threatening. I think only 2 issues have come out so far, and it is very interesting. I love the art style. I absolutely adore it. Billy makes friends with a local, I guess, Hellion. It's hard. She drives a motorcycle. She works at the bar and the cafe or whatever, and she happens to be a Satanist. It's really interesting. The relationship between these 2 women, the relationship between Billy and the Reverend, everybody in this town seems very quaint.
I'm calling it. Next year, BBC's making a series out of this.
It's really good. It's a lot of fun. The art is beautiful. And it's interesting to see that there is some secret behind the town, but it doesn't seem overly dramatic, despite the fact that it involves a reverend and the spawn of Satan, maybe. But yeah, highly recommend Steeple. 2 issues out so far. I think it's a 5-issue miniseries. John Allison, go out, pick it up. So far, this is a near mint. I mean, I can't wait for the book to finish up because this may actually be a mint. The story is very cool, and like I said, the art is amazing. All right, Pete, you got one more for us before we go into Marauders.
Sure. I've got one more on DC's Detective Comics, issue 1014. They're up there. This is continuing a story that they've been following with Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze has been granted the ability now to traverse wherever he wants without the suit. He can now survive
neat.
In regular temperatures.
All right, so he's Mr. Slight Chili.
But even more importantly, he's ramped up his efforts and has recently, as of the very end of last panel of last issue, has managed to revive Nora Freeze.
Oh.
his wife. And this is now the first time we're actually really getting to meet Nora Freeze. I've always thought of this as one of the most tragic and haunting love stories in comic books.
I think probably no little thanks to the animated series.
Oh, yeah. The animated series is what gave it to us. Heart of Ice, I believe, was the name of the episode. Maybe. But, yeah, this is watching Nora come to terms with the fact that she's lost so much time, that she apparently begged Victor not to freeze her, that she wanted to fight the cancer that she had on her own, even if it meant that she was going to die. And also coming to terms with what he's done in the name of bringing her back, the innocence he's hurt along the way. It's a very interesting story that, unfortunately, in this issue we don't get too much of. We don't get much resolution to it, and we do see her eventually joining forces with her husband, and maybe suffering a little bit of the same psychoses he does. For those of you who are fans of the Victor Freeze story, I highly recommend picking this issue up. It's a very good one, and hopefully they do pick up the strands that they've left hanging. I'm going to give this one a near mint.
Great. All right. That kind of wraps up our Halloween coverage, but the Hickman X-Men books are still coming strong.
Pirates are still a Halloween thing.
It's true. And
it all ties in, man. This is theming for the entire episode. Don't sell us short.
Yeah, let's deal
It was
with
intentional.
Marauders #1. In Marauders #1, we see Kitty Pryde taking lead on a group of mutants on a boat on the high seas, out there trying to save all those mutants who can't just freely go through a portal and land themselves in Krakoa. It's one of the things we actually kind of brought up in our X-Men raid. The Krakoa portals are neat, and the countries that have made pacts with Krakoa in exchange for these miracle drugs, it kind of makes sense why mutants might want to go to this paradise island. What about all those places in the world where humans are just resistant and would rather thumb their noses at miracles than capitulate?
Yeah. Quick shout out to whoever decided to entitle this episode "I'm on a Boat."
Oh, is that what this issue is called?
The issue is called "I'm on a Boat."
Very good.
Lonely Island reference.
So I believe Jerry Duggan writes this one. I think this is maybe the first X-Men book that isn't helmed by Hickman, if I'm correct.
In this series, yeah.
So this is our first chance to see what another writer.
Post-Hoxpox new writer.
It basically it brings up a lot of interesting points and does so pretty well. My big issue with this is I like that Kitty couldn't use the portal and that she had to go take a boat to Krakoa and got plenty drunk on the way. I think these are fun character developments here and there. And I even like the fact that we're dealing with what humans who aren't playing along are behaving. I wonder if we're ever going to deal with mutants who aren't maybe interested in Krakoa. I thought we were almost going to get it with Kitty, but still, she did want to show up. She did show up. She was on the boat, and she's working for the cause.
I believe we do have a book coming out that is going to deal with that specifically.
Okay, interesting.
And I think this book specifically focuses like a lot on Kitty. In fact, there's like Storm pops in and out, and there's a couple other characters that like I was hoping we might get a little bit more meat from. I mean, it's only issue 1, but
right.
It was obviously very heavy, Kitty focused, her motivations, kind of why she's there doing this.
Kitty Pryde, one of my favorite characters growing up.
Oh, yeah.
Loved her.
Definitely.
Still one of my favorites.
Yeah, and I appreciate the look. They give her a black eye immediately and a bloody nose, and they set her up as a pirate very gradually and fun. I did enjoy that.
Real quick,
sure.
I just want to say Fallen Angels, which is going to be the last of the Dawn of X books to premiere on November 13th, is the one that's going to focus on mutants that don't want to be.
Oh, very neat. Very neat. So right now this book is focusing on humans that aren't playing along, but in a generally more passive way. They're not building giant robots and sending them to Krakoa necessarily, but they are, clandestine investigating what's going on, trying to prevent their own citizens from joining up with Krakoa.
Looks like maybe we've got, the places that form militias around Krakoa portals.
Yeah. So what do we think? What do we think about this book so far? I mean, this is our first chance to find extra X-Men material.
I find the world building very interesting. Hickman in Hoxpox did the very broad brush strokes, I think. He presented how the mutant utopia is supposed to work. And now we're starting to see the instances where it doesn't quite go to plan. I like that.
I think it was a little weirder for me because, like, I got back into these X-Men books with so much of Hickman's voice in it. So I feel like this has a little bit of a different voice to it, which is good, but also, like, I kind of felt that lacking. It kind of tried to bring home this book's higher concept and kind of play it into the larger narrative. I just don't know if it slithered in as well as I'd like. It's hard because it's only the first issue.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about Iceman in this and how he's presented?
Oh, I love him.
I love Iceman. I'm aiming for something in particular.
I'm happy and not happy at the same time with a lot of this, because a lot of these X-Men are acting a lot more like themselves, but I don't know if I like that.
Right, because you want to believe that there's something happening to them.
Yeah, I don't know if this is an intentional thing or if, you know, we're just ignoring the fact that they were all acting really weird. Like, Storm is not doing the whole crazy Wicker Man cult leading thing that she was doing.
I would say that she's not in a resurrection moment, right? They've already proven it. Like, maybe that's her role during the resurrections. For me, the thing about Iceman that I pull out is him going through the portal a couple times and then losing his powers and being attacked, and then going back in the portal like it's no big deal. He doesn't act the way a mutant might act if on the other side of the portal there is a depowering ray that will stop you from being able to protect yourself. He's acting, in my opinion, as a person who has an immortality backup.
Yeah.
And
that's a good point.
I love that. I love that he's already, they are already a little smug about it. I don't know if that was just my reading, but to me, it felt like these people do not care. They've got Big Brother behind them. They've got a big stick behind them, is probably a better way of putting it. And no nation around the world, whatever rules it has, is really going to stand up to them. It's not going to stop them. They might die, but it doesn't matter. They'll come back.
I get that from some of them.
Yeah.
Not all of them. I don't get that read off of Kitty.
No, I didn't.
Even though she is being a lot bolder than I've often seen her. And that's appropriate, I think, because she definitely is one, as we see in this book, who should be questioning whether or not everything is working the way it's supposed to be working.
Right. Let's take another side of this. The our firebug here, Pyro.
I was going to say Pyro.
Yeah. So the original Pyro.
Yes. There has recently been a new Pyro who had similar flame powers that was kind of in the field promoted to X-Men recently. We don't know where he is right now, but this Pyro just wakes up talking just like he did on the X-Men cartoon show.
And amongst the first to be resurrected as a lab rat.
Yeah.
So this is very telling. First of all, that there are people who will get resurrected to it's been a while. Like, there's no formal reintroduction. There was no, hey, this person has been dead for a while. This is a big deal.
It's like, Charles is just bringing people back, so this might happen from time to time.
Yeah, and you might just stumble upon them sleeping in the hold of the ship, which I think is sort of ridiculous. Not only is it, like, ridiculous on the surface level, but imagine not only aren't you ever going to die, but all the people you've ever known who have passed might just show up again.
Except Destiny.
How about that? How about that? What does that make you feel?
In context of the book or out of context of the book?
I mean,
I feel like in context of the book, I'd be going nuts. I have no, and I think you guys talked about it in X-Men 1, like some of the relationships these people have with the other characters who've been dead are like weird.
Straight up bizarre.
Yeah. So, and well, again, not being like a long person stooped in history, I didn't see anything here that might have suggested any of those sorts of relationships, but still, I didn't even know that this was a pyro that had died after a long time,
Yeah,
and
he was a victim of the legacy virus.
Think of this paradise that has been created where death is not permanent and it may not matter. All those grudges between superhero and supervillain theoretically are easier to sort of absolve and forgive if, like, you killed my father, that's why I want revenge, but no, he's back, it's fine. Like, eventually it will roll off. You can imagine it, and that may be why villain and hero could sit at the same table, because it's like, well, were there really consequences to what you did to me? But there's a whole nother avenue of people have changed as a result of death. This is a little microdose of the 5 years later Endgame thing. Like, what if you remarried and the person who you thought passed comes back? Like, what do you do now? Well, I could tell you what you do. You, Cyclops, and Jean Grey can have 3 bedrooms that are right next to each other with doorways opening up in between each other. That's what blew my mind. I've heard people talking about the shared beer and all the kind of innuendo and the art and whatever, and that's fine. But, like, I looked at the map.
it's very apparent.
And the door,
They have doors. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah,
Yep.
So Wolverine and Cyclops are either side of Jean Grey's bedroom, and they're the only ones, I believe, that have doors that go into each other's rooms.
And
Which could mean nothing, and it could mean something, and it's actually, I'm not, I'm just this vanilla guy here. I don't have anything to say about this, other than I actually do appreciate the innuendo as opposed to being in your face with characters like this. I think you get a lot more traction with the innuendo than you do by spelling anything out.
I think
the unresolved thing is that I think the last time Cyclops died and came back, he was still in love with Emma.
Yeah.
And married to Emma.
In theory, like, just expanding on that is like, is this a version of paradise where if you're in heaven and you married, I remember asking this as a little kid, to family members who have passed away. It's so horrible. But, like, if you remarried, who are you going to be in heaven with now? Well, the answer is all of them. Maybe.
so.
It's a lot.
I think, and I'm sure the books will tackle this at some point, but someone's going to have to come up with a way to fight the resurrection death thing. And it might have even been Charles himself, right? The eternal torture at the center of the island. I mean, someone else could implement that,
Yeah.
And I think we might see it pretty early on here in this book. I mean, pirates, torture is the name of the game.
Well, they're going to be a different kind of pirate that don't do slavery and are seen as liberators, which we know, never seen that go wrong.
Yeah, right.
Our human trafficking has a good end.
Yeah.
We do it for the right reasons.
Right. Bishop shows up in this book and just to be like that there are other people who are spreading rumors about what happens to mutants who go through the portal, which makes sense. I like the fact that it's not just we put a tank there so people won't walk in. We also spread misinformation because that makes sense. And
Is that? I don't necessarily get that that's what's going on. That there's misinformation.
Yeah, maybe not. We don't know. It's too
Look,
early
I
to
get the
tell.
feeling that's a woman whose human point of view. I don't mean that human versus mutants, but I mean,
You're right.
yeah,
Relatable.
Relatable, because from her perspective, that's what happened.
Right, and then the question is, is the husband just being like, yeah, I'm out? Or was the husband like, oh, I left and I can't come back? We don't really know. We have yet to deal with mutants who don't want to be
Involved.
Do you immediately join the resurrection cult?
Yeah.
Upon entry to Krakoa.
And,
It sounds like you've already joined the resurrection cult if you're a mutant. You don't have a choice.
and who would say
Well,
no?
I'm talking about like you're eligible for resurrection, but are you drinking the Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
Or do you have? Yeah. So, anyways, two of my highlights from this book is Kitty's fight scene, where she just goes ape on everyone, using her powers in all the best ways. So good, worth it just for that. And I also love Wolverine swimming out to the ship to get his stuff. Because Kitty brought him a bunch of booze, really.
Yeah, that list
Booze and ribs.
is fabulous.
I think we could probably try hitting up all the things on Wolverine's list to get from the mainland.
Yeah, as is Pyro's reaction to Lockheed giving him a light.
That was pretty cool, too. The list impartially is ribs, Canadian Club whiskey, suds, Cubano sandwiches from a specific place in the village, pomade, keep that one under your hat, and coffee. So I did enjoy the book overall. I'm ready to give my review. I got to be honest, as a single issue, just the Kitty Pryde fighting scene alone is worth a mint. I'll do that. And the fact that it's toying with all these things that I wanted them to toy with so bad. Anybody else?
I'll go with a near mint. Maybe I'm just so used to the other two books being a little bit more balanced or focusing on a whole bunch of other things. Kind of the focused lens we had on Kitty was maybe not what I was looking for.
Fair enough. And Pete.
Well, if you asked me to submit to an internet poll what I think the name of this book should be, it's Minty McMintmint.
Yay! But speaking of name, you did have an issue, which is something that they brought up barely in this book. Marauders.
Oh, yes.
Weird.
Good point. Very weird choice.
Because they're former Marauders, right?
Yeah, the Marauders in comic book history are the group of murderous ne'er-do-well mutants that Mr. Sinister hired Gambit to put together. That was a spoiler.
Yeah.
That carried out the mutant massacre. The entire point of them was to go into the sewers of Manhattan and murder all of the Morlocks that were living down there. This is really a major event, and it's essentially naming your team after a death squad.
I mean, or it could be a very informed name. We don't know.
It's like that's kind of the
but
point.
Then Kitty is really hiding her evil on this one. It's hard,
especially given the explanation that she gives.
Well,
that she was in the spur of the moment and just came up with it.
Although that totally would happen to me, and probably has. I can't remember how many times I've said something.
What do we call you guys? The Luftwaffe.
It sounds familiar, right? Luftwaffe. It's the cookie you put on your coffee that warms up. It's not a Luftwaffe. What is it?
Stroopwafel.
Stroopwafel. Honestly, wasn't sure. Honestly, wasn't sure. Or like Stormtrooper from Star Wars. I'm sure when they were originally brainstorming, they were like, Stormtrooper sounds mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Let's use Stormtrooper. That's not a thing.
It's like, what are you guys gonna? You're on a boat. What are you gonna call yourselves? We're the Super Sailors. Yeah, that's right. You could call us the SS.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
We've got maybe two more of these folks. Just muscle through.
Maybe from an outside perspective, like from a foreshadowing sort of the authors chose this name perspective.
Oh, yes, definitely. Maybe.
Not necessarily Kitty going like, I don't remember that being a particularly problematic name in any way.
Yeah. Something funny about the Khmer Rouge. Yeah, I think we're done.
Yeah, we are definitely done. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of Near Mint, please like, follow, and subscribe so you get the latest in the podcatcher of your choice. Oh, and leave us a good review so more people find out about the show. Next week, probably a little bit more X-Men. I think we've got one more X-Men book coming out. Oh, no, wait. That's not true. We're on hiatus for at least a week because of the holidays. There was air quotes on that.
Well, we have to fortify our homes for Goosey Night.
Goosey Night. If you know what Goosey Night is, like, follow, and subscribe to Near Mint.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.